right, what's the plan today?
Dude, we're gonna do some baseline bike testing on the Cervelo. Gonna find out some numbers, find out where we're at. I guess the bike is sort of it's the biggest part of the Ironman. It's 180 Ks and it kind of can make or break your day. It's a real fucking art to it. Like, you can ride really hard and then have a shit run. You can under ride and not hit the numbers that you want to hit, but you can still run pretty decent. Or you can just nail it and do everything how you're supposed to do it. So really, we just want to find out what those numbers are and how far away we are from where we need to be. So pretty much we're just going to test my current... Oh, there's a big wasp right under there. Don't go in my car, you're fucking wet in my car.
There is a wasp in the car, yeah. Yeah.
Are you filming the wasp?
I am filming the wasp. Over my side, yeah, she's gone. Okay, so bike testing. Now, can you dumb it down for the people like me behind the camera?
Yeah, so...
When you say bike testing, what's...
So, I guess riding in its simplest form is power equals speed. How much power can you push on the bike will then give you a speed. Where it gets interesting, and I guess where people start to nerd out, is the resistance. So on the bike, the rider is the biggest thing. It's the thing that hits the wind and it creates the most resistance in slowing you down. So the goal is to make the rider as slippery or as anti-wind resistant as possible. And in cycling, like, we do all sorts of different things. So the materials on tri-suits, you can have calf sleeves, you can shave your legs, helmet, bike position, so the way you actually sit on the bike, where you mount your bottles, the tires you use, the wheels you use, flip this around, things like your bottom bracket, pulley system, ceramic bearings. You can really go as hardcore as you want into making your bike as aero as possible. But for now, we just want to find out where everything is stock. So we have changed nothing on the Cervelo apart from the position. So obviously just been bike fitted by Mick. I'm super fortunate to work with Mick down at a Coast Cycle House, and he does all my fitting. Everything else on that bike is stock standard. And then everything I'm going to use in terms of equipment wise is what I've used in previous Ironman. So Wind Republic calf sleeves, we got the Atoe, I think it's the Deluxe tri-suit, Giro helmet, and that's just going to set our baseline. So when we come back and test later, or when we come back and test in a few weeks, we can change the helmet. We know if it's a quicker helmet, slower helmet, if it fits me better as a rider. Same if we want to change the wheel, I put a disc wheel on the back. If we want to change the tri-suit, etc., etc. Literally, we can go on all day about all the different things we can change. But for me to ride 180 Ks in under 5 hours, which is what I'd really like to do, we need to, I think it's about 36 kilometers an hour, give or take. I'm pretty sure that's the number. So that's what we need to work out how far away we are from that number.
Now, I know we had a yarn in the garage before we started, but how do we specifically track the numbers that you're speaking about?
Cool. So, bike computer. Everyone's got these big fancy bike computers. I just like a real little one. That is linked to a power meter. Now, all sorts of different power meters, obviously. This is a crank power meter. That feeds into that, gives us a number, averages it out so we know the power we held for a period of time. It also registers speed based on GPS.
Cool. So the plan is get on the bike. How far are you going to ride to get the numbers?
So that's a good question. The reason we picked this road is there's a multitude of factors. Number one, low traffic, which is good. As a car drives past, perfect. Number two, there's a bike path most of the way. Number three, I think it's 24.4 kilometers out and back, so 12.2 each way. The elevation on this road, if you extrapolate that out to 180 kilometers, is almost exactly the same as the Ironman I'm eyeballing. So I can essentially get a full, if I want to do a 180 kilometer bike session out here, I can essentially ride the same as the Ironman bike course. So there's a few different factors that we've put into it, a lot of thought, a lot of planning, but to answer your question, it's 24 kilometers, which is longer than most power tests, but most power tests are probably like 5 to 10 kilometers, just depending. Sorry, not power tests, aero testing. We're just doing this for the sake of being able to extrapolate it out.
How'd you go, mate?
Yeah, good.
Good?
It's actually, pretty happy. We'll dig into the numbers a little bit more, but from just a little bit of data I get up here, I think we're on a pretty good path for the first round. All right, so before we get into the numbers, most important thing I didn't mention at the start is when you're doing bike testing, you want to control as many variables as possible so you can replicate the same environment, the same conditions time and time again. Otherwise, the more variables you enter, or the more enter into the equation, the data just becomes messy. You don't really know what you're testing. So we've taken weight, we've taken PSI on the tires, weather conditions, as many different variables as we can sort of control. Obviously can't control the weather, but we can pick days to ride that are similar weather conditions, humidity, wind, all those sort of things. So if you are going to do your own bike testing, control as many variables as you can. Tires again, big one, PSI in the tires, the gear that you wear, not controlling your weight, but recording your weight at the start. It's also a great way to test your sweat rate. So if you test your weight at the start, go and ride for an hour, test your weight at the end, you know how much you sweat in an hour. So we've taken all those things into consideration when we're doing that, and I'll have Jacob put it all up on the screen so you guys can see it while I'm rambling on. But the part that you guys all want to know is the numbers. So it's a 24.31 kilometer loop. It took 42 minutes, 59 seconds, so let's just call it 43. Average speed 33.94. Elevation 214 meters. So as I said before, if you extrapolate that out, I think it's 7 and a little bit laps to 180 Ks. You guys could probably work out what Ironman I'm eyeballing, but it just depends. Normalized power 201, which pretty happy with, to be fair. Average power was 191, which is probably on the low end of what I want to average for the Ironman, probably closer to 200, but I raced on the weekend, legs are a little bit heavy. We'll take it with a grain of salt. But most importantly, out of those metrics, heart rate 154, which is right in the middle of that sort of zone 3 race heart rate. zone that we want to be in. There'd be no benefit in doing 180 BPM from start to finish or 130 BPM start to finish. We just want it to be that nice, consistent zone 3 heart rate that we can withstand for 4, 5, 6 hours.
So what do you think are the main numbers to be looking at there? Like what's your main focus with those numbers?
Main focus is, so I just look at it as a super basic equation. We go power equals speed. So really what I'm concerned about is, well, actually we'll go power, heart rate, speed. Power is the amount of force you're producing. Heart rate is how hard you have to work to produce that force. Those two together equals speed. So really, the lower my heart rate and the higher my speed means the more efficient I am on the bike. So I'd say the goal over the next, how long do we have? I don't want to give it away. 6 to 8 months, because there's 3 Ironman in that window. In the next 6 to 8 months, I'd like heart rate to stay the same, power to go up, and speed to go up. So they're really like the 3 key ones. If we can't get power to go up, then we want heart rate to stay the same and speed to go up by mucking around with position, equipment, fittings on the bike, all that sort of gear.
So you focus on training to obviously keep your heart rate at the same level.
Yeah.
For everything else, is there anything else that you can work on to be able to change those numbers?
Obviously training's the biggest one, so you can produce, the more time you spend on the bike, same with anything, the more efficient you become, more power, you get more bike fit, so you can produce more power, become more efficient, so your heart rate comes down, you get more comfortable on the bike, so you can potentially hold a slightly tighter position, you become a little bit more aerodynamic. Perfectly honest, I'm still learning all of this, so this is just where I'm at in, I guess, my journey, but I feel like I've got a pretty good understanding of where I need to get to. If we look at average speed, 33.94, we'll call it 34 just for math. I've got to find 2 kilometers an hour to be in the ballpark of going 5 hours or under for an Ironman. Now, we can essentially, you probably could essentially buy that time if you were so inclined. This is, I guess, the unfair advantage that's in most cycling sports, but particularly Ironman, is like you can buy speed. We don't really want to do that. Like, I've got a fantastic bike. I've arguably got one of the best bikes in the world, best triathlon bikes in the world. I don't really need to sink any money into that. Like, the rest is now just all hard work. So I'm not overly concerned about needing to find that 2 kilometers an hour. 6 to 8 months of good hard training, we should exceed that pretty comfortably. So I'm not really concerned. Like, it's just a really good spot to know. Like, we're coming into summer now. We've got a good 3-month heat block. Blood plasma will be high come the end of summer, and we'll have a real good idea in February. I'm going to do Geelong 70.3, but we'll have a real good idea in February of where I'm at. Like, I'd be expecting to exceeding the numbers I need to in February, and then it would just be a matter of maintaining that and extending it out over the 180 Ks.
So when you were riding then, was that, do you think that was like a like full send, hard as you can go, or would it be something more relative to what you're competing with? So that right then was trying to be as controlled as possible. That's why we're talking about heart rate. For what we're trying to accomplish now, I don't see any benefit in doing like a 60-minute full send or like an FTP test or anything like that. That was really trying to nail Ironman heart rate. And you and I were having a conversation before. Obviously, you're doing some
pretty intense strength training at the moment, and we're talking about how your programming is actually quite similar to endurance programming in terms of the ebbs and flows throughout the week. And what we got talking about was lactate in terms of LT1 and LT2 markers, which isn't common in your sport, but with us, it's extremely common. So we really want to sit right in the middle between LT1 and LT2. Now, I might fuck this up, but I'll do my best. LT1 is the marker where your body starts to produce lactate, and LT2 is where your body can, that sun's fucking come out, that LT2 is where your body can no longer clear lactate efficiently. So essentially you go over threshold. That's when you get that heavy lactic acid feel your legs and your arms, and you just have to stop because your muscles are so full of lactic. Our goal is really to sit somewhere in the middle of that. Everyone's got a different sort of window. Mine's in that sort of 150, 156 range on the bike. And the more time you spend in that window, the more comfortable you get. Again, it comes down to efficiency and all those things. But we're trying to replicate those race conditions, that race feel, that race intensity as much as possible.
Cool.
Easy as that.